Hello, everyone. Sebastian Lucido here, and welcome to Headline and Prophecy. Today we're going to look at, the name of it is War, Peace, and then Great Tribulation. There's a scripture in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. It says, "But concerning the times and the seasons, brethren," verse 1, "that you have no need that I should write unto you. For you yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so comes as a thief in the night. For when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them, as labor pains upon a woman, and they shall not escape." It says, "But you, brethren, are not in darkness, so the day should overtake you as a thief. You are sons of the light and sons of the day. We are not of the night nor of darkness." And so there's this, it's in Scripture a couple of times. There's this temporary false peace that comes before Great Tribulation. It says, in the Scripture here, it says, when they say peace and safety, when we bring about a temporary peace and safety, a deceptive peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes. Then Great Tribulation happens. And so what is this that we're talking about? We need to understand it. We need to understand where we're at and what we're going through. And so I want to go back and look in Matthew chapter 23 and 4 at when Jesus is asked three specific questions pertaining to the subject. So if we go back to Matthew 23, verse 37, it says, "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, one who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather you as children together, as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you were not willing. See, your house is left you desolate." Now he's speaking this from Jerusalem. "For I say to you, you shall not see me no more till you say, Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." And so Jesus is talking about the destruction of Jerusalem, which happened in 70 AD. So after 70 AD, Israel was completely destroyed. Jerusalem was destroyed. The Jews and the Christians were dispersed throughout the Roman Empire. In fact, a lot of them were sent into England. The actual Praetorian Guard, I believe, I learned this from someone else, that actually they handled the crucifixion of Jesus. They were sent to Great Britain, England, what is now England, with Christians, and some of them got saved, and they caused revival, their early revival. So the destruction of Israel and Jerusalem is in chapter 23. Chapter 24 and verse 1, it says, "And Jesus went out and departed from the temple. His disciples came to him to show him the buildings of the temple." In other words, they went down into the temple area. The disciples are saying, "Aren't these wonderful buildings? Aren't these great structures? Didn't God do a wonderful thing?" Jesus responds to them, "Do you not see all these things? Assuredly I say to you, not one stone will be left upon another that shall not be thrown down." So immediately, after Jesus tells them, before they even get into the city, "Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you're going to be destroyed. Israel, you're going to be destroyed. And the temple is going to be destroyed." This all occurred in 70 AD. Verse 3, "As they sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, Tell us, when will these things be?" That's the destruction of the temple in 70 AD, which is outlined in Luke chapter, I believe, 21. And then, "What will be the sign of your coming and the end of the world," the end of the age? So Jesus answers, what will be the signs of your coming? Wars, rumors of wars, famine, pestilence, earthquakes, hatred toward the church, apostasy in the church. And then he goes on into Great Tribulation. He answers chronologically here in 4 sections, and he calls them birth pangs. And so wars, rumors of wars, pestilence, famine, and earthquakes are the beginning of birth pangs. They continue all the way to his return. Then hatred toward the church. Then they'll deliver you up to be afflicted. They'll kill you. You'll be hated of all nations for my name's sake. As a result, many will be offended and apart from the church, betray one another, depart from the church, be deceived and depart from the church. Because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will wax cold. That's the love of the Christian will wax cold because of lawlessness. Then, right after that, he says, "Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place, whosoever reads, let him understand." So this now in the signs that Jesus has given us, he's laid all of these out. Right in the center of it is when Antichrist goes into the temple and proclaims himself to be Messiah. This is outlined in the book of Daniel several times, and it's well known that it's the start of Great Tribulation. In fact, let me read on, because, he goes into a temple that's not been built yet. He goes into a city which just came back into Jewish control in 1967, and Israel, a nation, which is 1948. So 1948, Israel became a nation. 1967, they took Jerusalem. They're going to build the temple. We want to talk about that today. But when he goes into the temple, it begins Great Tribulation. Let me read, verse 15. Therefore, when you see the abomination, desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place, in the temple, whoever reads, let him understand. Then let those in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him who is on a housetop not go down and take anything out of his house. Let him who's in the field not go back and get his clothing. Woe unto those that are pregnant and those that are nursing babies in those days. Pray that your flight may not be in the winter, or on the Sabbath. For then will be great tribulation, such as not been since the beginning of the world until that time, nor ever shall be. And so in Jesus' signs, Israel had to be formed again. So from 70 AD all the way to 1948, almost 2,000 years, Israel became a nation again, May 14, 1948. In 1967, in April, they took back Jerusalem, the West Bank and Jerusalem. And so those two things had to happen. The next thing is the building of the temple, which brings us to the peace that comes before. What do I think is going to happen? How are we going to get peace? Well, when you look at the landscape of the Middle East today, there are two separate, distinct factions. And I'm not talking about Israel. I'm talking about factions within the Islamic world. There are two groups, and they're actual enemies of one another. And so on one side are those that have normalized relationships with Israel. The United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Oman have normalized relationships where there are free flights going back and forth between Jerusalem and their countries. There's exchange students. There's normalization of business and trade. It is like you can travel from any one of those countries into Israel and back, and sort of the borders have been taken down. Jordan and Egypt have peace agreements, which will move to normalization agreements. And Saudi Arabia was ready to have a normalization agreement until Joe Biden was elected. So, we have two groups. This group, this normalized group, this moderate group, will not stand in the way of a temple being built in Israel. They will not. Jordan, Egypt, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and Oman will normalize agreements with Israel because they have a common enemy, and that common enemy is Iran and Turkey. And so Iran and Turkey, along with Syria, Afghanistan, Pakistan, most of northern Africa, Sudan, Libya, and other parts of other nations are outlined in Ezekiel 38. Russia joins with Iran, Turkey, Syria, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Northern Africa, some of the old Soviet states, and they come against Israel and they're destroyed. That war, that we say war and then peace, that war will bring a temporal peace. And I believe that war will bring the 7-year agreement from it, whether it's right after or shortly after. That will bring a 7-year agreement where the temple can be built. Because remember, when you eliminate Iran, and the Bible tells us that 5/6 of their populations are destroyed. When you eliminate Russia, Iran, Turkey, Syria, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Northern Africa, some of the old Soviet states that are Islamic in nature, when you eliminate them and you neutralize them, then Hezbollah, Hamas go away, and we only have countries that would normalize with Israel. And I believe that will allow the building of the temple. That 7-year agreement will come after that war. I believe that that war could happen in this decade. I believe that, right now it looks difficult because Joe Biden's not a friend of Israel. He actually is talking about removing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. He's dealing with Iran, trying to make an Iranian deal. I'm not sure where all of that's going to go. But the Bible tells us that this comes about. So maybe, it's a little bit farther downstream, but we're looking for war and then peace and then great tribulation. So that's my broadcast today. Please share this with as many as you can. We're a purely remote ministry. So everything we do is you are our flock. So if you could share this with family and friends, if you could also pray about becoming a partner for $10 or more a month, helping us in our effort. We're not asking for a lot. If all of the listeners give us $10 a month or more, we can take care of our needs, our staff, and whatever. And then I have an uncensored version of this, which comes out every Friday. It's not on social media. It's not on our website. It's emailed to our partners, those that give $10 a month or more. There's a half-hour teaching on end times and a half hour of what's going on in business, politics, society, and Bible prophecy. It's an hour long, about an hour long, and you could get that by becoming a partner. Just go to our website, watchersoftruth.com. That's watchersoftruth.com. Sign up to be a member to get all of our curriculum and other stuff for free, or become a partner and get what I really think. And we have Zoom calls once in a while, and other partner benefits. Anyway, that's it. God bless you guys. Have a great week, and I'll see you next Monday for another episode of Headline.